Hello everyone, welcome to Power Platform with Mr. Today's video is part 3 of my complete tutorial on Power Apps model-driven app. In this series, we cover all steps involved in creating a model-driven app. So today I'll be showing you how to create custom tables and customize form structure. So for our expense management app, we will need 2 custom tables, one for our expense request and one for our expense item. So since I've already done a video on how to create tables, I won't actually be doing it today, but I'll just show you that I have done a couple of them here. So one is for the expense request and one is for the expense item. So if you want to create a custom table, what you will do is go to your solution, just hover on table and then click a table advanced properties. And what you want to do is you want to name your table. You want to also enable it for attachments. Enabling it for attachments here, if you upload any attachments like files and notes, it will be stored directly on Dataverse. It will not be stored in SharePoint or OneDrive. For that to be the case, you actually have to enable integration, which we will do in coming videos. However, you need to click on enable attachments so that you can actually upload documents to the table. So if in our case, it will be the table that you're creating. And then once you're done, just save it. Actually, before you do that, there's a primary column. I've named mine title. As I have previously explained, primary column is what is used to identify that record. So primary column is not a unique identifier. It's just an identifier for that record. So as you can see, you will have multiple columns like title, name, expenses, type of expenses, and so on. And you will choose one of those columns to be your primary column. So in the case of contact, for example, the primary column will be the full name. In the case of accounts, will be the primary column would be account name. So let's say it is a Contoso company, then the primary name would be, it will just be identified by that primary column, which will be the name of that account. It could be Microsoft or it could be Contoso and so on. So do that, and once you do that, so I'll show you mine. If I go to expense request, I'll just go here, and then you will create columns. So I'll show you the columns that I have created. So I have created approval date, created by already comes with a table. So Microsoft Dataverse will actually create that for you. All these ones here, they've been created by the Dataverse. Description, I have made that myself. And as you can see, it says RT description, which is Raytech description. That's the prefix showing you that I actually created that. Other ones I've done is, I believe that's the one I have done. And then title as well, which is as you can see, it's a primary name column. So when you create the table and you set the primary column as title, that's what it will show. Another thing is, I'll just get rid of this selection. Status reason. So status, for example, which we'll need is active or inactive. However, status reason can differ. So for our case, status reason will be, for the active side of things, is draft approved, pending, or rejected, depending whether your manager approves the request that you have made, or whether it's still pending, or whether your manager rejects it, or whether it's still just a draft and it has not been submitted. And then if you go here for the inactive, you can make it as cancelled, because inactive means it's no longer active. So that means that the request has been cancelled. So you can do this as well. And if I go on once you create all the columns, you want to go to your forms, and then you want to go to your main form, because this is where the user will be interacting with. And as you can see, I have the title here, I have the description, I have the created by. I don't actually need that one, but I'll just leave it there anyways. Yeah, I actually don't need the created by, so I'll just get rid of it. To get rid of it, you just click on it and then say delete. And then you have the status, which is active. Status reading, my default, I have put it as a draft. You can put your default as draft, or you can put it as none. And then the owner, which is just myself. And what that looks like, so once that's done, I'll show you actually. Once that's done, as you can see, my expense item as well, I'll just show you what it looks like in the form. If I go to my expense item and I go to the form, what I have done is I have created this columns. And I'll go to the main form because that's where you want to put the main form. And as you can see, I've put title, expense type actually, and then item amount. Actually, I will show you. So if I go back to tables, I'll go to tables, and then I'll go to expense item, and then I'll go to the columns. So it was the columns. If I go to item amount, you want to put that into currency. You want the data type to be currency because that's just money. And for the expense type, I will show you actually expense type here. So if I click on it, the expense type is a choice. So you want the data type to be choice. As you can see here, I've made it choice. And then in here, so basically when you create a table or when you create a column and you want it to be a choice, you have an option to either it can be used for multiple tables, and that way it's synced with global choice. You can say yes to that. So if you want to use it across multiple tables, you can make it global and you'll be able to use it for all the tables. I don't need that in our case. It's just very specific to expense item. So I'll just make it local choice. And as you can see here, you can just add more choices if you want. I have done taxi, ferry, accommodation, plane travel, and food. These are the type of expense type that I will have for the application. And if I wanted to add one, I would just add one. Let's say I wanted to I don't know, I can't really think of any other expenses, but you could say buying a laptop or something, and then you create that, but I don't need it. So actually, I'll just leave it. Actually, no need for that. And then my default choice, I just put it as number. You can put it as whatever you want. So that's what I have done with that. And what it looks like on the actual application. So as you can see, once this is my application, and this is my expense request and expense item. So my expense request looks like this. So if I want to create a new expense request, all I have to do is do this, and I can call it travel. I traveled to New York. You don't have to change anything here. This one will just leave it as a draft, and it's an active type, and you can just save it, and that will create a record as well. So if I go to here, you will see the travel that I've created. Same with expense type, with the expense items. You just click on it, as you see, or you can create a new one as well. You can do this and create a new one. Another thing that I wanted to show you was, and as I showed you last time, to do that, just go back here. And if I go to my applications, basically to put the expense request and expense item tables to your model driven app, you will need to go to your model driven app. So just click on apps, and then you click here, and then you click edit. And once that loads up, all you need to do is click on add page Dataverse table, because there are tables that you want to add. And in here, you can just type expense expense request and expense item. You can click on them and then just add it to your navigation. Basically, we'll add it to the app and then you'll be able to use it. That's what I have done here, but I've already added them, so there's no need to do that. Another thing I wanted to show you was a form structure. So for example, if I go here, or if I go to my expense request and I click on this, you can only see in this form, you can only see the general, in just general that it shows. And that's what you see here. But a lot of the, like for example, if I go to account, a lot of the tables, they will have different form, they will have different structures. So if I create new, you have summary here, and then you have details as well. So how do you create a new tab? So what you do is you go back here. I'll show you on my expense request. You go to tables, you click on expense request. Then I'll just go to the forms, and then you create it on the main form. So I'll click on main form. And what I want to do here is I want to create a new tab. And to do that, all you need to do is create component here, and you can choose what kind of, whether you want to do a 1-column tab or a 2-column tab, and so on. I will create a 2-column tab, and as you can see, it just says new tab here, and then it creates it for me. So I got 2 sections here, and also you have the layout as well, which you can change. You can change it to 1 column, 2 column, 3 columns. So 1 is 100% width of the form, 2 is 200 to 50% each, like as you can see here, and then 3 will be like 33%. That's what you could do. And you could also change the column width. So I have 2 columns here. I could make this one, let's say 60, and then it just gets a bit bigger. So you can format this one as well. What other thing that you could do is here on new tab, I want to call this approval details. Or details. And change the name. And in this one here, I just want to call it, let's say, information. Information. And in here, so I want to actually, if I go to approval details, I will put the approval date column in here. I'll put the created on as well. And also I want to change, what I'll do is I will take the created by, I'll just drag it to here, and then I'll bring it here. And not just, and as you can see here, it says new section. What I can do is, instead of just changing the name to something else, you can name it whatever you want, but I will just hide the label. So if I click here, just hides the label, and all you have is the created by. And also in here, if you click on the columns here, same thing with here as well. If you click on the columns, you can actually customize them here. So if I want to hide, let's say I'll click on description. If I want to hide the label, I can just click on it, and that will hide the label, and you can't see it. Bring back up. And if you want to hide it on the phone, when someone accesses it with their phone, you could do that as well. Or you can also make it read only. In this case, no one is able to write anything. You can't edit it because it's only read only. Another thing that you can do is you can lock it. If I lock it, for example, say it's locked now. Once I lock it, developers can't actually remove this one when they are developing. I'll just leave everything as it is. Once you're done with all of this, so creating the 2 custom tables, creating the columns as well. The columns, as you can see, all of them are here. And also you can, let's say, the form structure. I've just created the approval details here. What you need to do is save and publish. And I'll show you what that looks like once it's published. Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to publish, but that's done. So if I go here and I just refresh my page, I go to expense request. I could create new, or I could also click on the old records that I have. As you can see, the new tab has been added. So if I click on it, created on the 9th of the 5th of September 2025, and the time it will show you what time it was created by myself, and also approval date. Approval date will only change once it's been approved, and then it will capture that time and the date and time. For approval date as well, you want the data type on the column to be date and time, or just date only. I have only chosen mine to be date only. This is what it looks like. However, the issue that we have now is there is no relationship with these tables. These tables are not related to each other, and also there's no relationship with the contact or accounts. For example, if I go to expense item and let's say I have a lunch with a client and I want to relate that with a request from expense requests, and I also want to associate it with accounts, I can't do that because I haven't created a relationship between the tables. So a relationship is in model-driven app and in generally in Dataverse refers to the modeling of tables and how they relate to each other. So I'll show you a picture. I'll show you a picture that I have drawn here. As you can see here, think of this as the expense request that has a one-to-many relationship with the expense item, because one expense request can have numerous expense items associated with it. And also in here, I have users, or what we call them contacts. One contact can have multiple expense requests. So that is a one-to-many relationship. So what I want to do in the next video where we talk about relationships is to create relationships between expense request and expense item. And also we will create lookup fields to the account table, so that when we create, let's say when I create an expense item, I want to create a lookup in here. Let's say I want to create the client. I want to put a field that says client, and the lookup here should point to a client that we have in the accounts. So I will show you how to do that in the next video. Our next video will be focused on relationships. So until then, watch the videos and I'll see you then. Bye.